Hello again students, we have already finished the first session of your chemistry, so today we're going to start with your second session, and I hope you're clear with the term water and then the different sources of water. So today we are going to discuss further details about water. Okay, now we are going to discuss about the water cycle in nature. Okay, so I have been explaining to you before, right, that water when we start heating, it forms into a water vapor, and then when we start cooling down, it forms water again. So what is water cycle? It is easy. The change of water from one form to another over and over again. It is known as your water cycle in nature. So let me explain to you more in details, but there are three steps which involve in the water cycle in nature. That is, first is your evaporation, then you have your condensation, and then you have your precipitation. So we'll discuss first about evaporation. Okay, we know that the sun, okay, when the sun rises, what will happen is that it warms the water that is present in the oceans, ponds, lakes, and rivers. So when the sun start warming the waters, those which are present in the ocean, ponds, lakes, and rivers, they continuously change into water vapor, which escapes in the air. So the process of changing water into water vapor, it will be known as your evaporation. So so now we come to know that how evaporation is formed, right? So not only plants also convert water into water vapor through the process of transpiration. Now next comes your condensation. So as we know that the heat of the sun warms up the air near the surface of the earth, okay, so what will happen is that this warm air, they contain water vapor. So this water vapor, what will happen is that it will start rising towards the atmosphere. And remember that the higher the atmosphere, the temperature also changes. Okay, the higher the atmosphere, it will become colder. So what will happen is that when the water vapor, they start escaping towards the atmosphere, and when it starts reaching to a higher altitude, it will start cooling down. Okay, and they will form a minute water droplets. And the process of cooling of water vapors into minute droplets, it will be known as your condensation. So we got your evaporation. First step was the sun warmed the ocean, ponds, rivers, all the water that is present in this sources. Okay, so once they start warming, they will form a water vapor which will start escaping in the air. That first is evaporation. The second step is that when the water vapor, they start escaping towards the air, it starts moving towards the atmospheric layer. So the higher altitude they move on, the temperature also starts changing. It becomes cooler. So once they become cooler, this water vapor, they turn into a tiny water droplets. So this turning of water vapor into a tiny droplets, they form your condensation process. So these tiny water droplets, they start forming a cloud. Okay, so when the water droplets in the clouds, they start coming together. When they start coming together, they form a larger droplets of water. Okay, so when they start forming a large droplets of water, okay, so these larger droplets of water become heavy. Once they are very heavy, they start falling back as a rain, okay, into the earth. So the process of forming rain from small droplets, it is known as your precipitation. So I'll repeat. So these tiny water droplets, I told you, which we get through the process of condensation, they'll start forming clouds. And then these water droplets in the clouds, they come together and they form a larger droplets of water. So when these droplets of water becomes very, very heavy, what will they do is that they'll come back in the form of your rain. Okay. So what will happen is that apart from the rainwater, okay, the remaining when they come back in the earth, okay, the same process will happen. The water will start evaporating, and the waters which do not evaporate, some of the water which do not evaporate, what will happen is that they will be absorbed by the soil and goes underground. Half will be evaporated back, and the half of the water will remain in the soil, and then they will go to the underground. And this water on the land, okay, the water which is present on the surface of the land will be used by us, by the living objects, even we human beings. Okay, then when air cools to a greater extent, okay, when this water they start cooling to a greater extent, they become colder. Okay, and then this water droplets they become freezed, and once they become freeze they turn into a snow particles. And this particles, what will do they do is that they will combine together. Okay, this water droplets, when they freeze they form a snow particles. So these small snow particles, they will combine together and form a snowflakes, which falls as snow in a colder region. And we know that the snow melts, right? So when the snow melts, the water falls into the streams and rivers, and we know that many of these rivers, they'll fall back into the oceans. And then when they go to the oceans again, they will start evaporating because the sun will warm the oceans, and then they'll keep on going this water cycle process. Okay, so at the same time we should know that this water cycle process, it is very important. Okay, and then rain, and then this water is available. We should always know that water is available in the form of rain. Okay, and it plays an important part in regulating weather and global climate. Okay, so when the heat is absorbed, okay, when the water evaporates and is released when it is condensed. So the absorption and release of heat, which is in the form of energy, helps us to know the weather patterns. Okay, or in a short form, we can just say that we can regulate the climate over longer period of time. And also remember that by absorbing water start absorbing a large quantities of heat, the oceans also help to balance the global warming. Next we have is the importance of water. We know that water, it plays a very important role in all living bodies. Okay, we should also know that all animals and plants, they contain a large amount of water in their bodies. Not only them, even we human beings contain large amount of water inside our body. Okay, we contain about around 70% of water, okay, inside our body. And then the amount of water that is present in animals and plants varies. Okay, some plants might contain 90%, some animals may contain 80%, and so on. Okay, not only that, we should know that water is very important for the habitat of aquatic animals and aquatic plants. So what will happen is that those animals, aquatic animals and plants which are living under the water, they use water as their main source for survival. How do they do it? Is that they take the dissolved nutrients, all the nutrients that get dissolved in the water, they take them, as well as they take the they also take the oxygen that get dissolved in the water for their survival. And not only that, even animals and plants that stays on the land, they need water for their survival. Okay, next one we should know is that water plays a vital role in human body. Okay, how is that? Firstly, it helps us to digest our food in our stomach. The second one is that it helps in the absorption of nutrients in the blood, and they help in distributing to the various part of our body. Okay, and the third one is that it helps to maintain our body temperature. So you know that we sweat a lot, right, when it is very hot. So what do? We drink water. So when we drink water, it helps us to maintain the balance in our body. Okay, and then how does the water reaches the surface of our body? They come in the form of our sweat, and then when this sweat comes out, it gets evaporated. Okay, so a part of the heat is taken away from the body, keeping it cool. Next one, we should also know that water is very important for the germination of seeds and growth of plants. Okay, we all know that plants, they have roots, right? So in these roots, what will happen is that the water that gets absorbed in the soil, the plants will take the water with the help of their roots, and then these roots will transport to the other parts of their body, even it up to their leaves. And we know that in the plants, the green part of the leaves, it is where the process of photosynthesis takes place. So when the water is being carried to the roots will transport them up to the leaves, and then the leaves, with the help of the water and carbon dioxide and in the presence of sunlight, they will start preparing the food, and that process is known as your photosynthesis. And then, if you refer to your textbook in page 77, there are many ways where water is useful in our day-to-day life. Okay, I haven't written yet, I haven't written it down, so you can just refer to your book in page number 77. I will just read it out. First one is that water is used for all domestic purposes, okay, such as your washing clothes, bathing, cooking, watering plants, irrigation, crops, etc. Okay, the second one is that it can be used for transport of goods. You have seen, right, that boats, ships and sailboats, okay, what do? They do is that they travel from one place to another carrying a goods, okay, or materials. And then they can also use for transporting many goods. Suppose if I want to transport a good from India to US, okay, I can use these boats and ships. That is, I can transport them with the help of boats and ship, but that the main role which is playing is your water. The next one is that we know that the seeds of several plants are transported by water. So what will happen is that the seeds falls on water, and then this water will start floating and then carried off to very far off places. So in this way the plant spreads from one place to another. Also, you should wonder that many people also live in boats. Okay, so they have their homes on water, so they live on boats in lakes and rivers. Okay, and also water is used for sports facilities, like people go to lakes, rivers or seas for swimming, boating or water skiing. Another one is that you know that when water move very fast, okay, they start producing a lot of energy, okay, and this energy is your kinetic energy. So when they start because of this kinetic energy, okay, a lot of pressure and force is being given out. So this energy of moving or falling of water, okay, can be used for water wheels, which will be, and you know, some water wheels are used for grinding grains. At the same time, it can also be used to run machines in factories, okay, this running water. At the same time, these water wheels are also called turbines, you all know, and these turbines plays an important role for generating our electricity. The next one you have is the need for potable water. Okay, we know that earth has a huge amount of water, okay, but this huge amount of water can be used cannot be used by human beings and other animals. Okay, so the amount of water which can be used by human beings and animals, it is very small. Okay, we know that 97% contains oceans, so it is very salty and it cannot be used by human beings. Okay, and most of this fresh water is frozen in the glaciers and in the polar areas of the earth. So we know that only a few percent is being available for human beings. And how do we get them? It is through the repeatedly recycled. Okay, so we recycle them repeatedly, and also with the help of water cycle, which can be used for animals and human beings. And we should know that what is potable water? Potable water is nothing but it is just the water suitable for drinking by human being. It is known as your potable water. Okay, at the same time, this water that we get, okay, from various sources, like from, I have explained to you the various sources in the previous class. So what will happen is that they are not fit for drinking, okay, because they might contain dissolved salt and then suspended particles as well as microorganisms. Okay, but we know that dissolved salt is good for our body, but when there is too much of salt, okay, they need to be removed. Okay, so these suspended particles are also to be filtered. Okay, and then microorganisms also have to be killed before they reach to our municipal water supply. Because if the microorganisms are not being killed, or if we do not remove excess salt, or if we do not filter the suspended particles, it may lead us to several diseases such as your gastroenteritis and your diarrhea. Okay, I haven't written down the characteristic of drinking water. You can refer to your textbook, page 78. Okay, so the characteristic of water, first of all, it should be transparent. That means it should not contain any color. Okay, and second point is that it should be odorless and colorless, means it should not have any smell, or it should not have any color. And the third one is that your water should contain minerals essential for our body, and it should be free. And the fourth one is that it should be free from harmful microorganisms which can cause diseases. So talking about a disease, now we are going to study about waterborne diseases. So what is waterborne diseases? We know that the water that is being obtained from different resources are not always potable. That means are not always drinkable. So what will happen? They contain harmful chemicals and microorganisms. Okay, so these harmful chemicals and microorganisms can cause us diseases, and such diseases are known as your waterborne diseases. So that means the diseases which causes through the use of water, it is known as your waterborne diseases. So the first one you have is your diarrhea. Okay, so this diarrhea, it mainly is caused by the infection in your intestine, and the symptoms will result by frequent loose motion. Okay, it can also lead to dehydration. That means a loss of water in your body. Next one you have is your typhoid. So typhoid is also caused by bacteria, okay, that is present in your drinking water. I told you that in water that is present for drinkable, also we need to filter them, we need to kill the microorganisms. Okay, so if we do not clean the microorganism that is present, there will be a presence of bacteria, and this bacteria can lead us to the disease called typhoid. And this bacteria will infect the intestine. Okay, that will lead us to high fever for a number of days. Second one you have is jaundice, and this jaundice, it mainly affect the liver of a person. Okay, and this is caused by a virus, that is your hepatitis A. So when a person suffer from jaundice, they will have a disorder of the liver, they will have nausea, they will have weight loss, and they will have a stomach pain. Next one to have is your cholera. So this cholera, mainly the symptoms will be result in a frequent vomiting when you vomit frequently, and it can also be cause to death if it does not been treated earlier. And remember, not only cholera, any other diseases, when you start suffering from them, you should always take an early treatment so that you can prevent yourself from more serious infection. Okay, the next one to have is your gastroenteritis. So this gastroenteritis, it mainly causes an infection in your intestine. Okay, you will have a pain in your stomach, and which will eventually comes with a loose motion. The next one to have is your dysentery. It can be caused by a bacteria or amoeba. Okay, so what will happen is that this amoeba or this bacteria will mainly infect the wall of your intestine. Okay, so which will lead to the secretion of mucus along with during your loose motion. Okay, and then when you have when your dysentery is very severe, it can also cause a stomach pain, and bleeding can also occur. So we should always know that in order to prevent ourselves from such type of diseases, the water that we drink or the water that we use for cooking should not contain any microorganisms or any suspended particles, because once it contains any chemicals or suspended particles or any microorganisms, we are surely to have this type of diseases. And I told you, this type of diseases, if not treated earlier, it can lead us to severe cases.